Hello, everybody. It is Monday, April 6th, 4 p.m., and we'll call to order the Board of Directors meeting for the Holland Board of Public Works. Janet, can we have a roll call, please?
Thompson,
Here.
Maloof, Lynn,
Here.
Lilly,
Here.
Ingbers, Corbin, Van Beek,
Here.
Couch.
For the record, we have a quorum. Can we have a motion on the agenda?
Like to make a motion that we accept the agenda as it's been presented.
Motion by Lilly, second by Maloof. Any further discussion of the agenda? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We have an agenda. At this time, we'll open the meeting to communications from the audience. We provide an opportunity for anybody who would like to address the board to do so. I'm requesting you state your name and address for the record and adhere to a 5-minute speaking limit. Any communications from the audience today? Hearing none, we'll close communications from the audience and turn it over to Ted for our consent agenda.
Thank you. Good afternoon. For the consent agenda today, it's quite the list. We have item 4A, which is approval of the March 9th and March 23rd meeting minutes. Item 4B is a reappointment of Paul Lilly for a 5-year term on the Water System Advisory Council. Item 4C is for approval of a pole attachment agreement with Metro FiberNet, pending approval as to form by the city attorney, and that's very standard pole attachment agreement that we have with our other pole attachers, not many big changes there. Item 4D, approve a grant of utility easement with Liberty Court Association for fiber infrastructure to support the Holland City Fiber Passings Project. Item 4E is also a grant of utility easement for the Holland City Fiber Passings Project. This is with Trillium Condominium Association. Item 4F is approve an agreement with Plumbers Environmental Services for the next phase of the sanitary sewer and manhole inspection and also cleaning. Item 4G is approve a purchase order with McAllister for the purchase of a SkyTrack telehandler for use at the electric production facilities. Item 4H is approve the attached lists of IT and warehouse and facilities equipment as surplus for disposal and recycle. That's the consent agenda.
Any questions on the consent items? Paul, I wondered if we could ask you to maybe share with us a little bit about the water committee that you're going to continue on.
Okay, very good. Yeah, this group is really established under charter from the city, and we basically provide the required group to review and to approve any communication that has to go out regarding lead in the system, specifically in the supply lines to the houses. We also have reviewed the activities. We are under a state mandate right now, and there's potentially some changes, but a federal mandate to have these lead service lines replaced by a certain date. And while we're making progress on replacing them, it's probably not at a pace that we could complete it within the time frame. So at some point in time, we will need to examine that unless they change the rules under which we have to do it. And if so, we'll accommodate that. We also are going to be reviewed and approve the notification due to late notification to the state of the results of our lead service line, lead levels of in our system, specifically in service line replacements, and we basically are going to include a notice of that in the water report this year to do that. We also have an esteemed person on our group, John Van Ufflin, who was a longtime employee of BPW and did a lot of things, is also on this group too, so that is good. We have also explored and may continue to look for other people to join, at least one, but we would like to potentially get somebody from Hope College ultimately that had some science background. That might be an add that we do to the group, but not required to do so. So unless we find someone, we will stay with where we're at.
Thank you, Paul. Could we have a motion to approve the consent agenda items?
Motion to approve the consent agenda items as stated.
Support.
Motion by Maloof, supported by Lynn. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The consent agenda items are approved. On to major projects.
Yeah, thank you, BJ. We have 2 items for major projects that have reached completion and that have closeout memos today. The first is completion of the water treatment plant transfer pump, pump number 4 rebuild, and I think Adam's here is gonna come and review that one.
Great, good afternoon. So I wanted to come and talk about transfer pump number 4. So this is the first of a series of 4 rebuilds that we're doing. So the theme that we have on our capital improvement plan at the water plant's kind of rejuvenation of end-of-life assets. This is one of the transfer pumps for us that takes the water that we've filtered, goes into the clear wells, so treated water, moves it into the 2 big on-site storage tanks. It's a vertical turbine pump. This one was put in 1975. Has not been rebuilt, has not been touched since 1975. It's been performing pretty well. The only kind of metric that we've seen decline is the check valve was slamming shut. That wasn't due to a pump issue. That was really due to more of the check valve itself, but it was well past its useful life. So we decided this was going to be the first one on the list. It is the oldest one out of the transfer pumps. We have 5 total. The most recent one was put in less than 10 years ago, and that one will have plenty of life. But this is the first one we went after. And so the contracting team that went through that, Northwest Kent Mechanical, did pump removal. So they removed the pump, revised some of the discharge piping for us, and put the pump back in. Rep Hay Electric out of Allegan, they did our motor rebuild. So a full motor rebuild, rewind, tested it, balanced it. And then Torishima Service Solutions is a shop out of Battle Creek. They did the pump rebuild. So the only original part remaining on the pump is the large casting. So the big discharge head, the pump bowl, but all the impeller, all the internals, all the bearings, everything was brand new as of this project. So that's the result. There's a fully rebuilt pump, fully rebuilt motor. We've now kind of reset the clock for the lifetime of this motor, hopefully giving us plenty of space to run with this one for a long time. It does about 10 million gallons a day, so we have 5 of them, identical capacities. That gives us, with one out of service, 40 million gallons a day capacity, which is beyond the 38.5 capacity of the plant. And then one thing that I really wanted to highlight with this project is we had to get pretty inventive with the way we were bidding this. So traditionally, the way that we would bid rebuilds of large pumps like this is we'd go to a rebuild firm, so a large pump rebuilding shop, and they would give us essentially a turnkey project. So they'd say, I'll take the pump. They would subcontract out the motor repair. They would subcontract out the mechanical. Recently, we've been seeing those prices balloon significantly. So we actually had to split this up into 3 projects, bid 3 different RFPs, and then juggle all sorts of different invoice or estimates we were getting back from contractors. There was a lot of work on the part of our staff, but we handled it, had to act a little bit more like project managers for it. But the result of that is that we were able to be a little bit more efficient with the budget that we had for it. So we did find, you'll see in one of the photos, a very interesting photo of the impeller of the pump with significant holes in it. It's definitely not what pump impellers are supposed to look like. So that's something that we uncovered. Originally in the bid package, we had thought about reconditioning the impeller. So a lot of them, if they don't have holes like that or leading edges that are really worn down, you can recondition them, you can weld plates onto them and smooth them back out. This is far beyond what a capable shop could do. So because we bid it out this way, we had wiggle room that we could go to them and say, let's recast a brand new impeller out of bronze. The company that makes them doesn't make them anymore, so this is a reverse engineered impeller that we had to have custom fabricated. So that's something that wouldn't have been possible without bidding it out pretty creatively. And the check valve that we replaced it with is now a more gently closing one, so the operators are very happy to not shut down transfer 4 and hold their breath a little bit to hear it shake the building. So yeah, the result is just it's a great functioning pump. The operators are leaning on it hard right now. We've been running it for 3-4 weeks full bore, no issues.
Any questions for Andy?
Is that a static or a variable drive?
It's a variable frequency drive, so it's a 125 horsepower pump. I should have mentioned that. It varies the flow based on how much we're putting to the filters. So they filter down in. It's seeking to maintain a level so that we don't back up a filter or run them dry.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Andy.
Thanks.
Thank you, Adam. The next closeout memo is for the water reclamation facility, electrical system upgrades, which Alex told me today this is the first project he started working on when he got here. And we've been bit by supply chain issues, I think would be the comment here from an equipment delivery standpoint. So Alex.
Yeah, this actually predates me even. We started it back in 2019, believe it or not. We have a little bit of COVID issues that kind of delayed the original bidding. We bid it out in 2022. At that time, there was a lot of things happening, but one of the bigger things was big delays in switchgears and transformers. And so as part of this project, what we actually did, so this has both an east and west switchgear replacement along with 3 transformers that we kind of partnered together and called it overall electrical system overhaul of reclamation. But transformers, we have the ability to work with Steve's group with their contract yearly quota to be able to take some of those offhand that aren't being utilized to slow down lead time. And in the ideal world at the time when we bid this, transformers were in the 72 to 80 week lead time, where the switchgears were supposed to be 52 to 54 weeks. Turned out to be 98, so it took a little longer than we had hoped. But we were able to get it going here this fall and kind of finish it here in the last couple of months. So this project does a couple of things for us. We've been, between the digester project, installing a new transformer and replacement of transformers, we've been able to replace the majority of the transformers at reclamation, so we're working through that. There's a couple left that are still to do in future years. But also with the replacement of both an east and west switchgear, we're now able to utilize a connection between 2 different substations. So if there is an outage or an issue with Pine Sub, we have a backup feed with James now, and there is an interconnect under the tunnel through the plant that can feed the entire plant off of either switchgear. So it offers a little bit more protection in that regard. We did end up with 1 change order during the project, which was for Theka's time, just because of bidding and COVID delays and some of the redesign that we did to allow us to use some of our own transformers that we had in stock to add a little bit of additional cost to that. But overall, we're still 6% under budget of the number. One thing to note, though, is with the COVID costs and everything that came in, we did do a budget amendment during the middle of this project to add a little bit more cost to it. So it's a little bit more than we were originally intending of that $480,000, but still under the overall approved budget, the $615. So, yeah, any questions? Awesome.
Looks like we're all set. Thank you.
Thanks.
Just a reminder, the major projects list is available for you all on the board SharePoint site. I have a couple items to note for Holland City Fiber. We've been kind of talking about a slowdown in the passings project that really happened in the fall. Winter, we kind of expected a slower pace just because of weather, but that finally caught up to us in March. We only had 111 active new services for March. Good news is we have started the underground drop construction again. The last week of March we started that. Fiberhood 10 is done finally, and we're taking applications, and we have over 200 applications for that Fiberhood, and Fiberhood 11 should be delivered to us by the end of this week. So we're catching up. We probably won't open up Fiberhood 11 and actively start drop construction there until we've caught up on Fiberhood 10. But that gives us some runway again, and they're making progress on the remaining Fiberhoods. For the UV disinfection project, the construction RFP is out, and those bids are due back by April 27th. You're going to see I just signed a contract today for the equipment, so that's going to be on its way. And then the service center customer service remodel, which has an impact on you all and why we're here today instead of over at the boardroom. I don't want to overpromise, but we think furniture is going to go in the week of April 20th, so there's a potential that we could have the May regular meeting back in the boardroom. Again, I don't want to make any promises, but I think odds are better than 50-50 that'll happen, so that project's going well.
Might have to use folding tables.
No, we think we should have everything back in there in time for the May meeting.
Just got a string, I'll come here.
Right, yeah, right. Everybody showed up here this time, so that's good. Is there any other questions anybody had that I could try to answer on the major projects?
Are our crews doing some of the install work on the fiber now too?
We are. We've been doing that. At least one of our technicians has been doing full-time on the in-home installations, and sometimes both of them, if we don't have service calls or things like that. If you remember, we do have another fiber tech in the budget. So once the drop construction slows for ITG, where we're not able to give them a couple hundred a month, we just got some bids back for some local companies to maybe fill in where we need it, but also we would start doing the majority of those ourselves.
Good. I think get information back, and make sure that we commit to it like we've said we're going to commit to it. It's good.
Yeah. We always send out a survey after that process, and it's been
Positive.
8 to 9 out of 10 people are happy with that initial install. So it's been going really good.
Any other questions for Ted? Thank you. We'll move into regular agenda items.
All right, thank you. The first item, 6A, is going to be engineering for Lincoln Lift Station improvements, and Peter's here to talk about that project.
Hi, good evening all. So this is a continuation of the work we've been doing on lift stations the last couple years, going down the list of kind of criticality and priority. We've now reached the Lincoln Lift Station. This lift station is just north of the airport on Lincoln Avenue and kind of serves the industrial customers around the airport and the area just south of there. So not a lot of residential flow, but a lot of kind of daytime industrial production flow. The station itself is getting fairly old. The mechanical, the electrical all needs to be replaced, and the wet well is also of poor condition, so there's going to be some evaluation there of what we do with that wet well, whether it's kind of lining or just resurfacing. It's also very difficult for our maintenance crews to clean the wet well the way that the access to it's currently configured, so there's probably going to be a new top on it that provides better access for the Vector truck to get in there and suck the debris out that accumulates in there. So we went out for proposals on this, and we actually got quite a few proposals for the engineering services, which we're happy about. Quite a big range on the pricing as well, but we were happy to see that 3 of them were kind of bunched together at a reasonable number that we expected. The 2 higher ones, I think, weren't all that interested in the work and had a lot of hours in some areas where we didn't necessarily think that a lot of evaluation was needed. So we did interview the 3 that were bunched around the 90,000 mark, and Hubble, Roth, and Clark came in low at 81,000. Have a good team, have the experience, have done a lot of similar stations recently, so they bid it aggressively, and we're confident in the proposal that they have and the team that they're putting forward. So this recommendation is for a contract with Hubble, Roth, and Clark in the amount of $81,380 with a 10% contingency that brings the total to $89,518. So happy to answer any questions you have about that.
Hubble, Roth, and Clark are located where?
I do believe their closest office is in Grand Rapids, but don't quote me on that.
And the systems that they've put in or been for some of the
Yeah, some of the other regions around here, Muskegon, I think they've done some work in Grand Haven. They do a lot of work for the Grand Rapids area utilities as well. So they're definitely a regional consultant. We just haven't seen them in Holland for a while. We have done work with them previously, just not recently.
Thank you.
Peter, is the scope of this project quite a bit smaller than the other lift station projects?
It's fairly similar in terms that a lot of the structure is going to remain, and we're kind of gutting it and then replacing it. A lot of utilities are doing similar type of work, so some of these firms are getting used to this type of work, and they kind of have the spec book on the shelf. A lot of the stations are similar vintage, similar design, so we're seeing the amount of effort that needs to be done on the engineering side go down, and I think that's what some of this pricing is reflecting.
Any other questions for Peter? Could we have a motion to approve the recommendation?
I'd like to make a motion that we approve the contract with Hubble, Roth, and Clark Engineers in the amount of $81,380 with a 10% contingency of $8,138 for a total of $89,518, pending approval to form from the city attorney.
Support. Motion by Lily, supported by Lynn. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That's approved.
Thank you.
On to item B.
Yeah, 6B is a backup generator for the low service pumping station at the water treatment plant. Just remember, the low service is raw water from the intake that gets it to across the street for the treatment process, and Adam is back for this one.
Yep, you get to hear from me again. So, yep, like Ted mentioned, these are the ones right next to Tunnel Park. So right now we've got the only standby capability is with the natural gas pump that can do about 7.5 million gallons a day, which is below any average day that we have. So we are severely limited in the case of an extended power outage. As a reminder, we do have a redundant power feed at the water plant, so we're not fully stranded. We could get power from 2 different consumers' feeds, but it does represent a pretty high risk for us in case of a very large regional power outage. So a few months ago, we had approved the engineering portion of this with Fishbeck. So they're doing the electrical engineering and the site design for us. This is a recommendation for equipment procurement only. So it's working with McAllister Power Systems as the Caterpillar representative. We had Fishbeck put together a bid package for us to send out to 3 different manufacturers. This is for a sub-base tank diesel standby generator, so it would be located out by the low service station on the west side of Lakeshore. We made sure to specify with a sound attenuating enclosure to make sure it's not going to be a very loud sound for neighbors or for park goers. Screening as well would be included in the site plans. That's a little bit different than this equipment procurement, but we did get bid prices back from all 3 of our representatives. So we had a representative from Cummins. We went to them because those are the same as the generators that we have for peak shaving at the water plant, so an opportunity to potentially work with them as well. McAllister Power Systems was our Caterpillar representative, and then we had Total Energy Systems was the Kohler representative. So we got pricing back from all of them, sizing calculations as well. And they landed on a couple different options for sizing between 650 and 750 kilowatt. We looked at it with Fishbeck and landed on that 750 kilowatt size to try to make sure we stayed below about an 80% power loading to that generator to make sure we had some wiggle room for building loads, different kind of loads that we could either start or stop these pumps on. They run on VFDs, but that means that their initial power spike when you turn them on is a little bit higher than across the line starts. A little counterintuitive to think about it because they start softer, but you do have a little bit more of an inrush current. So 750 kilowatts is where we landed with both Cummins and Caterpillar. Kohler had a 700 option, but that was more expensive for a bid price than the one from Caterpillar. The reason, again, we're doing this is to beat a little bit of the lead time issues that we're seeing with generators. So that we're past a year timeline for getting any of this equipment in. The automatic transfer switch as well is about 34, 36 weeks out, I believe, is what I saw. So this gets ahead of that and also allows us to capitalize on saving on some equipment markup from doing it with a contractor. And we will have a site plan getting put together that should be, I've got it on the calendar right now, we should see the 60% design next week. So we're getting that put together as well, and we're hoping to bid that out for the site plan for a contractor to put that generator in, probably sometime in early June, to start sending that out to contractors to look at. So this recommendation then is for a procurement contract with McAllister Power Systems. That's in the amount of $311,780, a 5% contingency of $15,589, and that's a grand total of $327,369.
Will you have another request coming back in for the actual installation? I know you said you have the bid coming for, no, you have the spec for the work to be done, but separate?
Yes, that's a good question. So yeah, we'll have a completely separate package that will be a take delivery of this generator. So the contract with McAllister Power Systems does include them trucking it to the site. Doesn't include like crane or rigging or setting it on a concrete pad. That site design and site work is being put together, and we have a tentative bid out date of May 27th for that. So we should see that come back in middle of June.
Any other questions for Adam? Could we have a motion on the recommendation?
I'd like to make a motion that we approve the equipment procurement contract for McAllister Power Systems for the provision and delivery of a 750 kW diesel standby generator and ATS in the amount of $311,780. A 5% contingency of $15,589 for a total of $327,369, pending approval to form from the city attorney.
Second.
Motion is by Lilly, second by Maloof. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That's approved. Thank you. Ted, you want to move to item C?
Yeah, item 6Z is a little bit, well, I shouldn't say a little bit, is a lot of an emergent project that we're seeing on 16th Street with a water distribution main. Noticed some water present last year, but didn't really indicate that it was drinking water, and it went away. And we're noticing more this year with some chlorine residual there. So we believe we do have a leak to fix, which Peter will kind of talk about why we chose the approach that we chose, and this is actually going to happen next week, right, Peter? Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, so there's a couple springs, if you call them, all along US 31 on the east side that if you keep your eyes open, you'll see some wet spots in the pavement. 8th and 31, right at the McDonald's, for example, is another one. And so a couple of these wet areas have been reported to us several times over the last couple of years. We test them for fluoride and chlorine to determine if it's a water main leak or if it's just a spring that's surfacing there. This area has been noticed for about 2 years, actually, off or on, and it's in the northeast corner of US 31 and 16th Street. The last couple times that we've tested this, it's never popped for chlorine or fluoride, so it was assumed to be groundwater surfacing right there. And if you look at the roadside ditch, there's some reeds growing there, so it's definitely a wet area. This spring, we noticed that the flow was getting stronger, and when we went out and tested it, it was showing positive for chlorine and fluoride now. So it is a water main leak in that area. The water main in that area is a 12-inch from the 1960s, a cast iron main, so it is kind of one of our problem pipes. There's some compounding factors there that it's right at the edge of US 31, and the main runs east, west, and 16th. As it approaches 31 on both sides, there's two bends in the pipe that kind of bend it to the north and then bend it back in alignment, and then the pipe goes under 31 in a casing pipe. So the water surfacing on the east side of 31, but it's difficult to determine, is it a main break or leak inside of the casing in the middle of 31 and it's just flowing out of the casing at that end? Is it one of the fittings right there on the east side that's leaking, or is it the pipe itself that has a crack and is leaking? In order to determine any of that would require digging in US 31 and shutting down the highway. So we were really hoping to avoid any of that. So what you have here in front of you is a recommendation for installing a liner instead. and doing so further east of the highway, kind of in front of the Speedway gas station, and then running the liner through those bends, through the casing, and then all the way past 31 to Culvers on the west side, the new Culvers, where we recently replaced all the pipe and valving in the intersection there. And so that would allow us to get essentially new pipe all the way from that intersection with Hoover and 16th to the east side of 31 and avoid having to dig up that area again. There's a couple different options for liners that could be used here. There's kind of a cured in place liner, similar to what we do on the sanitary system. We've used a pressured cured in place liner on a couple water main crossings for US 31 in years past. The issue that we have is the bends. The cured in place liner has the potential to form wrinkles. It doesn't necessarily always traverse bends very well, and you can actually twist the liner, and then if it cures out with a twist in it, you've created a blockage in that pipe. And so there's a lot of risk associated with a cured in place liner. It's unfortunate that we have the bends there because the cured in place liner is a cheaper option. The alternative, though, is a newer technology called a Primus liner. And this is fairly new in North America. It's been used in other countries for a little bit now. But it's not a cured liner, so there's no epoxy that hardens out. It comes on a reel, kind of like a conduit would, and it's actually folded in on itself and then shrink wrapped to hold that smaller diameter shape. And what that does is it allows us to winch it through even a 90-degree bend. Our as-built show that these are two 45-degree bends, but what we learned on the Southwest Heights project is those as-built showed 45-degree bends too, and we had to abandon the liner there because they actually ended up being 90-degree bends. So this is really the only liner technology that mitigates all the risks that we're facing here. It does come with an elevated price tag though, so this liner with installation is $227,000. A cured in place liner, when we bid that, was about $90,000 to $100,000 less. So what we're getting for that additional cost is avoiding all the impacts of closing down 31, doing exploratory digging right before tulip time. So that's kind of what the cost here is for that work, $227,000 for the liner. Now this lining company just does the liner, so then we have an additional contractor purchase order that we're issuing with Milbacher Excavating in the amount of $77,000 to dig the pits, tie in the liner, backfill, and put pavement down on top of that as well. Milbacher is a familiar name for you all at this point. We did reach out for proposals from other excavators as well to make sure that the pricing was competitive. They are the only ones that were willing to submit a proposal on this because everybody else is starting up their projects right now for the year. So there was very little, if no, availability from any of the other contractors. We did negotiate the price down from $92,000 to $77,000 with Milbacher, so we are confident that we are getting a good value for what we're purchasing there. And then there's another about $10,000 in traffic control setup that's needed because it is high traffic. 16th Street, 31 is going to have some impacts there. So the westbound lanes of 16th Street will be closed down during this work. Eastbound will remain open. So we're going to lose a turn lane off of US 31 onto 16th Street if you're turning right there to kind of go into Menards. So the total for all that work combined is going to be just shy of $340,000, inclusive of a contingency on the lining work. Now, because this is not a planned project, we don't have it in our capital book right now. The recommendation you have in front of you is for a capital budget amendment to cover all that work, plus a purchase order for the liner installation, which is the only component that exceeds the threshold for board approval. The purchase order for Milbacher and the traffic control will go through our standard procurement process with Dave's signature on those.
Peter, maybe just talk about future life of the pipe. I mean, this is 60s cast iron that's we would probably be addressing at some point anyway.
Yes.
This kind of moves the can down the road a bit.
Yeah, so east of here, we've actually had some breaks on this pipe, this 12-inch cast iron pipe, just east of the Waverly intersection, actually. So when we looked at the options originally, we were looking at, do we just go the width of the highway to address the fittings and the casing, More than likely, what that would leave us with is some orphan sections of older pipe that would break in probably the near future, and then we'd be digging up 16th Street again. So this footage of liner is more than we need to address this leak, but while we're in that area digging up the road, the cost per foot is economical to kind of address that larger section. And then this liner is anticipated to have the same design life as all the other kind of CIPP liners, so in excess of 60, 70 years. It is a newer technology, so there isn't a track record of having this in the ground for that amount of time to go off of, but it is anticipated to have that life, and other utilities that have used it so far are very happy with it.
Where will the dig pits be? Actually?
Yeah, so one will be effectively just in front of Culver's. If you drive by there, there's a big pavement patch from last fall where we replaced the connections and valves in that intersection. So we'll be kind of digging right at the edge of that. And then there's a frontage road on the east side of 31. And so there's a water main T right there. So we're going to be digging up that T in the frontage road just next to the speedway. And connecting at those points.
And anticipated downtime for those?
Yeah, so the excavation and the liner work, 1 day to excavate, 1 day to put the liner in, 1 day to put everything back together. But then we have to do some testing on the water main as well. So the traffic impacts, right now we are scheduled to have traffic control in place starting Sunday night, and then most likely through at least Wednesday afternoon, if not Thursday. And then getting the main back in service by Friday, as long as all testing comes back good.
So you mentioned that you've extended it a little bit because you know the pipe, you're not going any further to the east.
Yes, great question. So with this liner, the one limitation that we have is adding taps to it, so new service connections. And so this distance was selected because there's currently only one service connection in that area, and part of the work here is actually going to be moving that service connection further away from the line section to go off of non-line pipe. So this section is going to be only fronting properties or areas that aren't going to have future connections on it. So Speedway and East, there's a lot of commercial properties there that would need to have connections, so that would have to be traditional open cut replacement when we get to that point. The total dollars per foot, once you kind of balance all the numbers, is about $500 per foot to get this in. If we did an open cut across 31 and kind of did a traditional replacement of that water main, it would definitely be at least 2 times that, if not more. So it's still a good option, even though it's an expensive liner.
Thank you.
Keith?
Thanks, PJ. Just asking, things happen, right? And you have to do this just with this short time period, and this will be more visible to people. My guess is we'll already work together, but just if your team can communicate with our team and put out as much notification and social media and all the like, because
Yes.
you know the world will come to an end when all this starts. But
We're going to have message boards coming out later this week to
Great.
give the folks that are commuting on that route a heads up before the weekend. We have had recent work, so this will be the 4th time that we're closing westbound 16th Street in the last 12 months for this section of water main. So people will hopefully know the detour routes by this
Yeah.
point in time. But yes, we're going to make sure that we get some communication out.
message boards and
Yep.
our media teams. So thanks. We always do our best there. So thanks, Pete.
Absolutely, we'll do that.
Do you know if Give Them a Break is the signage people for this or not?
Yes, they are. So there's only one other traffic control company kind of in this region. They're based
Yeah.
out of Grand Rapids, and the last couple times that we've tried to reach them to do work, it's been very difficult to even get them to answer our calls.
Yeah.
And so,
I personally had to interact with them because they did not follow up with, we had a windy situation in the Heights, and things got blown around, and they didn't come out and do anything to set them back up again, you know. So,
yeah, for a stretch like this with as high traffic as it is, we'll keep a close eye on it, and our guys will help set things back up too if they're not coming out in
Okay.
a short amount of time.
very good.
Scott?
Thank you, BJ. You mentioned 4 days of work that would be taking place? How, any of that impacting the businesses from a water perspective?
No, so the one service, there's a kind of multi-unit building right facing US 31 on the west side, north of 16th Street. There's a law office in it, I believe, and kind of a massage business.
Yeah.
So that's the one water service that'll be impacted, and what we're gonna do is actually put a new water service in for them before any of this work starts, so they won't notice any impacts at all. And then it's really gonna just be the ability for customers to get to those businesses that'll be impacted, and they've all been notified at this point.
Any other questions for Peter? Could we have a motion on his recommendation?
I move to approve the fiscal year 26 capital budget amendment in the amount of $340,000 and approve a purchase order with Advantage Reline in the amount of $227,771.61. With contingency for a total of $250,548.77.
Support.
It's a motion by Maloof, supported by Lynn. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That is passed.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Peter. On
Thank
to
you,
item
Peter.
D.
Yeah, item D is, Joel's gonna come up and talk about an engineering agreement with Black and Veatch. We talked about the digester, although working really well, not quite meeting specification, and Black and Veatch is gonna do some work for us on that front. Joel.
Yeah, I know Dave has talked a little bit about where we're kind of sit with the anaerobic digester, but maybe a little background again. So back in late '23, the system started operating. Pretty much immediately, we noticed that it wasn't meeting the performance specifications. It couldn't demonstrate compliance with really the hydraulic throughput and heating up the solids enough to achieve Class A biosolids. So just as a little reminder, biosolids, if you're going to like land application, there's two classifications. Class B, which is what we historically have used and what we're using right now, can go on crops that aren't for direct human consumption. So you're going more on like silage type crops. Class A, you can use most anywhere. So if anyone's ever used Milorganite, purchase it from the store, that is a Class A biosolid product. So you can use it like in your home garden now. So it opens up more opportunities. So those are kind of the two issues we've been facing kind of since that time, the hydraulic throughput and this inability to get the heating to get to the Class A. We had been working with the contractor to try and get to resolution, kind of working productively, kind of reminder that kind of broke down. We're now in a voluntary mediation with the contractor. Their subcontractor, who's really the ones that designed and built the system, and the engineer. We started that mediation process in the middle of last month. One of the kind of takeaways, and I think Dave talked about this previously, was they had asked for kind of a walk away, what is that dollar value? So in order to develop a walk away, value for the mediation process, we really need to get an engineering team on board to look at that and develop kind of what they think a turnkey system to address the issues would be. We reached out to Black and Veatch, very reputable engineering firm that can also do a turnkey system with the construction side. This is what you're seeing before you is really that phase one of really going through, identifying the issues and developing a work scope to address that, and then getting to I guess a Class 4 estimate, which kind of gives relative, confidence in that number, so we have something we can bring to mediation. So this is really to set up that process. They're looking at about an 8-week time frame to develop this. We actually had a meeting last week kind of kicking off this process, but now we really need to get the contract in order. I will say this is talking about the contract being subject to approval as to form with the attorney. Just as an FYI, it already has really gone through the attorney in Black and Veatch. So I think the contract itself we're in good shape. We just need a finalized proposal, which I'm expecting at the middle of this week. We did have, however, a preliminary number from them. That's the 210,000 you'll see in there because it is preliminary. What we're asking for here is approval up to 250,000, really not to exceed. The actual number will be established once we get that proposal. And then also asking, because Dave's out and kind of time is the essence here, asking for approval for me to sign really in his absence. So that's generally what you have in front of you. If there's any questions, I'm happy to answer those.
Should we move forward, we would just include this kind of cost in the associated, get it working right.
Correct.
Kind of a price, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes, that would be part of that cost that we give them. And obviously if mediation were unsuccessful and things moved in another direction towards litigation, that would again be a cost we'd be looking to recover.
And we haven't gained any additional information regarding others in this situation with the contractor and other things that we should be just aware of. It doesn't change this, but.
As far as others,
Yeah, I guess I would say the likelihood that, well, that we did get a discussion that they're bonded and the
Correct.
project, it would come out of insurance as
Correct.
opposed to their ability to continue to pay if they go into receivership or some
correct.
craziness.
We currently have, I think, just shy of a 30 million bond still open on this project, as well as their insurance. Their bond agency and their insurance company are part of the mediation process as well.
That's fine.
Any other questions for Joel on this matter? Could we have a motion on the recommendation?
I would like to make a motion that we approve the engineering services agreement with Black & Veatch in the amount not to exceed $250,000 pending approval from the form from the city attorney. Also authorize the execution of this agreement by Joel Davenport, HBPW's operator director, as acting as the designee for the HBPW general manager in his absence.
Support.
Motion's by Lilly, supported by Maloof. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That's approved.
Thank you.
Joel. Do we have other business tonight?
We have no other business.
Could we have communications from the general manager?
We can have communications from the utility services director.
Acting as the general.
That'll do.
Just a reminder that spring break this week for local schools, so the Holland Energy Park Visitor Center is open on the 7th, 8th, and 9th. That's Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday this week from noon to 2 p.m. No sign up necessary. There's a banner on our website that you want to click on to get more information on that. Happy to have people come, and if they're looking for something for kids to do this week.
Are there any Easter eggs hidden?
I don't think any Easter eggs.
Oh,
Other scavenger hunt items, though, I think,
Yeah.
is Ashley has prepared. April study session for the study session this month, we'll have the customer satisfaction survey results from Great Blue Research. We've got a preliminary look at those, and they look really good. So that'll be a good discussion. And then the annual regulatory issues update that we normally do for the board. So those are the two study items. There may be more, but I know about those two so far.
That'll be on April 27th.
Correct. Yep. And then I have some bad news for us. This is Peter Byer's last board meeting. Peter has an opportunity to go back and serve at a previous employer in a senior engineering and consulting role. It's a good opportunity for him. Peter's been with us about 6.5 years and really done a great job. He's with me in this role, utility services director, him having great knowledge about water, wastewater, the services, just some things. He really moved our transmission and distribution assessment forward. You've seen a lot of those presentations from Peter about how we attack some of these aging assets that we've had with the limited amount of funds that we do have, and the big capital plan and regulatory requirements that we have on lead service lines. A big project, just because we were kind of in transition with engineering, the slip line on the Lake Mac water transmission repair. Peter really drove that. A lot of customer interactions, a lot of contractor interactions, got a specialist engineering firm on board. That project ended really well, I think, given all the challenges associated with it. We've had numerous GIS improvements which are in Peter's department. You've seen some of the locating work that the escalation just in the construction, some of it our own doing, on locating requirements that we've really been successful attending to. Don't forget the Park Township wholesale to retail. That was a very challenging project with going from quarterly to monthly billing and different meters and having to do estimates for customers, which got challenging. At the same time, Park did a larger rate increase, which fell to us really from a communication standpoint, and just a lot of other successes. We wish Peter well, and I already told him, hey, if you ever want to come back, we're glad to have you. So just happy for him, and he'll be local still, so we'll encourage him to come do public comment at board meetings.
Well, I think the board would like to express their gratitude, Peter. I personally remember the day that you had the first pictures of the breakdown underneath Lake Macatawa. It was pretty dramatic, but more importantly, we really appreciate the efficiency in which you get things done, and really how you the patience you show to educate the board on a lot of the matters you're working on. So we wish you well.
Thank you. Sad news. Good for you.
And that's all I have for communications.
Great. Any communications from the board?
No.
We have a motion to adjourn.
I'd like to make a motion that we adjourn.
Support.
Motion by Lilly, supported by Maloof. All in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned.